Today we'll be making flower-shaped candles from Babybel cheese wax. Here's the tools we're going to be using for today's project. The first thing we have is this wax melting container. Next we have some wick for the candles. Then we have 2 silicone rose molds that we purchased on Amazon. Of course, then we have our wax from our Babybel cheese. We also have some spare wax from some other pumpkin flavored cheese that we had at Halloween time. We're going to melt that down too. We have a lighter. We have a set of tongs. We also have a skewer, and this we're just going to use to punch a hole through our silicone mold so that our wick can make its way through. And then we have scissors for cutting the wick. Of course, we also have a pot, and that's to boil water to put our wax melting container in. To begin our project, fill a pot with some water and turn on the stove. We're going to add some wax into our wax melting container and secure it to the side of the pot. This is going to keep it from bobbing around too much. If you run out of wax, you can always add more as the process is going. On the centerpiece, be sure to only use the wax itself. Don't use the little wax paper that's attached there. That'll mess up your candle. While the wax is melting, we're going to start prepping our wick material. This is an example of what happens when the wick doesn't have a coating of wax on it. You can see it just goes out right away. Here's an example of a wick that has a wax coating. Next, we're going to dunk our wick into some of the melted wax. We want to make sure that it covers all sides of the wick material. I'm just going to let it cool down for a second, then I'll set it on a plate to finish hardening. It only takes a few minutes to dry, then we can start cutting it down to length. I've already pressed a hole through my silicone molds with my skewer, so now I'm just going to follow that hole through and push my wick all the way through. I want to leave about 1/4 of an inch of wick exposed on the other side. I use the skewer to keep the wick centered up on the candle for when I pour the hot wax. We're going to pour all the way to the top of our mold. Expect it to shrink a little bit as it cools down. I'm going to transfer it to a smaller plate so that I can fit it in my freezer. The freezer isn't necessary, you could just leave it out, but it's going to take a lot longer. While we're waiting on that to cool, I'm going to do another one. While it's melting, I'm going to go ahead and prep the wick like I did on our other mold, pulling it 1/4 of an inch through the silicone mold. Once the wax is liquid, we're going to pour it into the silicone mold just like we did on the previous attempt. Into the freezer it goes. After a few hours, we can pull these out of the freezer, and they should be nice and hard. If it still feels warm or soft, go ahead and put it back in the freezer. What happens if you pull them out too early, sometimes the wick will get caught in your mold and can rip the center of your candle right out. This is what it looks like when that happens. We're just going to trim any excess wick off the rest of our candles and remove them from the mold. These came out pretty good. If you want to make a Babybel cheese candle without the mold, check the link in the description. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next project.